there. I'm going to first cover some update. Well, let me show the best and latest source of information about the Community Reinvestment Plan, the $200 million that we're talking about tonight, is on the Commerce web page. And Ari, are you okay? Let me show them how to get to that. Ari, can you click on the logo and go back to the home page? I just want to show people where to get access to this. So if you click on that, Ari. So going back to the home page. Oh, it's thinking. There's a quick link right underneath that's on the home page. Oh, let's take a minute. But this particular page has information. You can see in the right-hand corner being able to download the plan. For those that want a heads up on writing the grants and preparing for the grants before the RFP goes out, you click on that PDF and review the program that you are interested in. That's going to give you the details of how the program is set up, some of the things that we'll be looking for, the key performance indicators, all of that on the PDF. Under that, there's a dashboard, and I won't go into that right now, but all of the 17 or 19 different programs are listed on the dashboard that show what stage they're at, whether they're actively out and contracted, whether they're in a procurement stage, which means we're trying to contract them out, or if they're in the planning stage. And so there's information on the collaboration dashboard that shows each of the programs broken out. But if you want to look at details in terms of the actual plan, there's a description for each one of the 17 different programs on the PDF. Oh, well, that happens. So let me cover, I'm glad I got backup notes. Let me cover the Community Healer Program, because that's going to be released.
Before you move from how to get it, my last question was, is the money that she's managing and over for residential assistance, is that gotten out to mortgage companies and like what?
She's actually going to come up here and cover a bunch of probably a bunch of programs quickly, and so I'm going to cover some of the grassroots ones that she's going to come back.
Our program in July 6th, our forum is going to be centered around home ownership.
Yep.
And the whole subject, the whole 2 hours. The next one in June. On June 6th, will be centered around it. So we'll be able to dive deep into it. But we want to make sure that these grants that are coming out now, that you guys have direct access and knowledge on it.
Yeah, so logistically, there's a Community Healer Program that's roughly about $9.5 million that will be awarded. Those requests for proposals, that RFP will be out Monday. We're guessing Monday the 13th, and closes 6/27. So there'll be a good amount of time to kind of think about the proposal that you want to submit. There will be webinars on that particular grant program. The minimum qualifications to apply is nonprofit, grassroots, faith-based, or community-based organizations licensed to do business in the state of Washington. And organizations that apply need to be registered with the Community Reinvestment Plan buying for organizations. So how many nonprofits do we have in here are community-based organizations? Cool. Has everyone heard of the buying for registration in terms of if you're an organization? Has anybody not heard about that list? Okay. So
Can you raise your hand if your organization is buying for?
There you go.
Raise your hand if you're not.
Yeah, you want to register on that, if we go back to the webpage, Ari, so let me show you where to get to this. If you haven't registered as a buying for organization with the Community Reinvestment Plan, when you go to the Commerce webpage and you scroll down a little bit, you're going to see quick links.
And tell them what that is first. Tell them what buying for is.
Oh, I'm showing how to get there. So under quick links, the Community Reinvestment Project, if you click on there, that's going to take you to the webpage. And then there's going to be, when it does go there, there's going to be a link that's basically, are you a Black-led by, organization that's serving your community? And that's a simple way to put it. It's basically like FUBU, but for organizations. So organizations must register to get access to the grant programs that we're going to be releasing moving forward, so that we can kind of control where the funding is actually going, so that we can make sure it's going to targeted Black, Latino, and tribal organizations. And so one, to make sure, right now we probably have about 450 organizations registered on there. That list is continuing to grow, and we're using that list to also share out different grant opportunities and other updates about what resources are available. So when you get a chance, if you have not registered, go on the Department of Commerce website, go to that the link for our webpage, and then register as a Bind For organization.
Tonight.
Yeah.
No.
So let me go back to this community healer program. It's going to launch again 5/13. The effective contract date would be 7/30/24 to 6/30, so it's about a year. And there's going to be 3 tiers of funding. The first tier is for small size organizations. They have it broken up by size. So organizations that are under $500,000 in the annual budget can apply for up to $150,000. There's also a tier 2 and a tier 3 for mid-size and large-size organizations. Mid-size being $500,000 to $2 million can apply for up to $250,000, and then large organizations can apply for up to $500,000. So there's $9.5 million in that community healer bucket. The community healer program is a really flexible approach to healing. It's a holistic, trauma-informed person in our community-centered, culturally responsive services. And it's a really flexible approach. I think that we are anticipating things that, proposals that address people's social, emotional, and spiritual needs, physical or safety needs, training and education needs. And the RFP that comes out will list specifically how you earn points and what kinds of things you need to think about in terms of a technical proposal. And we have folks like Ryan and the NAACP that can help assist in kind of thinking about how you might respond to that grant proposal.
Now, what's the earning of points for?
So, Ryan, do you want to talk about how?
So oftentimes when an RFP is structured, there will be an evaluation criteria, and for the evaluation criteria, each section makes a certain amount of points. So there may be a certain amount of points for experience or different sections of it, and that's really how they had it up. Okay.
The contracts are basically awarded by points, so they're just graded it by a point system.
Yeah.
Each section is usually awarded a certain amount.
That's why we need you.
There, like boundaries, like here's
That's a great question. So the community reinvestment plan, 62% or 64, actually it might even be a little bit more, 64 to 70% of the funds should actually go to the 6 priority counties. And the 6 priority counties are King, Snohomish, Pierce, Clark, Yakima, and Spokane. So the majority of the funding for the community healer program should go to those 6 counties. And we actually put a clause in the plan where if there's other regions that can't use the funds, or we can't find a provider in some of the other regions, it's supposed to have default to those 6 priority counties.
Right now, the 6 counties, King should be the #1 priority, based on history and numbers.
There is an allocation method that we're trying to kind of follow, and I'm trying to think what the number is. It might be 24. Well, for the actual King County, it might be 23 or 24 of that dollar amount would go, if we're following the wheel of like an allocation method in terms of trying to break it out equally for each county. Let me go some questions back there.
Yeah, so as far as awarding the money, do you award it on a rolling basis so that, you know, between the application period, which ends, you know, whenever you said, are you consistently awarding money throughout that time? So
No, it'll be one competitive process where we'll have a bunch of applications. We'll have community members review those applications, score them based on a point system in terms of who, you know, for a competitive process. Then there might be some other considerations in terms of region to make sure the regions are covered, make sure that the target audiences are covered. And then those top candidates, those top applicants will be funded based on those dollar amounts until all the funding is left in one contract kind of period. And then that'll be the end of that contract.
Can I add?
Yeah.
About the point from the
Sure.
Evaluation, so usually how the evaluations are usually done is you have kind of a group full of people who specialize in that area. And I'm not 100% sure how Commerce has set up, but for example, if it's barbershops, usually the people evaluating and you know, calculating the points will be people who have a background in barbershops or whatever it is. So you may gain points for having a competitive price, you may gain points for having a more competitive set of experience, staff. There's a number of categories in which you can try to get the most points in. I just wanted to add that evaluation piece in there because it's important that we have evaluators who specialize in that area too.
Yep, thank you.
Corbett,
Yeah.
somebody else to the guy.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. I know people learn this very process, and please make it clear about that this is a reimbursement type
Right.
grant.
Oh.
It's not unrestricted funds, also respect what you're awarding to the city, you have to be ready to begin the work and invoice the state, and then it comes back after what, 60, 90 days, you start on that?
Yeah, so that's different. There might be a different process for each grant. I have to check on this one about whether or not it's deliverable based or whether or not it's reimbursable. Most of the time, most of the competitive grants that we do are reimbursable grants. You have to spend money before to get reimbursed from the state. And there's a number of reasons for that, but the main one is that we can't lend the state's credit. So that's a main kind of legal thing. I'm sure Ann could probably walk through this a little, more articulate. But yeah.
And I just want to ask that, so in my experience at times when I have gotten those type of grants, I have good relationships with the people I work with, I let them know what's going on, and say, let's go on and do this work, and we will submit the invoices, and as long as people know they're going to be coming for a few weeks, they're usually good with the kids starting going to work, so.
Right. Yep.
Or they have good relationships with people that want to do this process, and understand that you're not starting out with this big pot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to work your program and pay your employees, and then you will get reimbursed.
Correct.
Yeah, grants
But
have
most
what's
of the
called
time.
what's
Most
called
of the time.
deliverables.
And
And deliverables are normally spaced out, and you get a piece of the money when you hand in deliverables. So along the way, so the first stage of deliverables, you hand it in, you get that first piece. Second, so she brought up a situation and then brought up the solution. That's beautiful. That's exactly what you do, what she said, right? Going in, you know that you don't have the money in the bank. Therefore, you need to tell the people you're doing business with that you might be running 60 days at first. Or, to give them that first piece. Then after that, you should be able to prime the pump and be able to roll.
So, give me a real quickly. So, when you're talking about the allocation of these grants per county, is that a projection or is that a certain percentage that's being put out there? because it was a grant that came out under community investment not too long ago, that we see a good portion of the funding actually went to construction.
Which grant was that?
You find it close.
Yeah, we stopped, I personally reviewed the allocation of how we hit the mark, and it did follow that WIOLA allocation. So there was the majority did go to King County because it has the largest WIOLA allocation. And there should be a press release out so you can see all of the providers that are listed, or actually on this so if you scroll down, Ari, now, if you're still up there, oh. Yeah, I'm not gonna have you go to a different page. If you could scroll down a little bit. So keep going. There's that volume 4 right there. Keep going. And then you see open grants. And then keep going. You'll see 2 grant programs that are listed there. We'll keep posting them there as they're up and coming. But hopefully that page can come up with, oh, here we go. So here's the financial coaching programs that got funded. So there was 28 programs. So we have 120 applications. 120 applications, 28 programs got funded. You can go there to actually see which. So when we do a competitive grant process, we're trying to show community who actually received the funds, so that you can kind of see who you might partner with. Because if you're doing another kind of home ownership program, or if you're doing something related and you want to partner with financial coaches, well, here's financial coaches that we've already funded. So if you're into workforce development, if you're into one of the other services, there's a list of partners that you can connect with.
I have something to add real quick. So for that, I wanted to ask, do you know if the grants that are being put out, are they deliverable based or are they time and materials?
So if I was to cover all of the programs, just to kind of, just as a reminder, that the community reinvestment plan involves 4 state agencies. So there's 4 state agencies, there's 17 different programs, there's probably 10 or 12 different program managers, and each procurement might have a different particular approach. And so there's some contracts and some books of work that it might make sense to do a deliverable based contract. For some books of business or some services, it might make more sense to just have it on a cost-based deliverable. What we don't want to do is, we want to be thoughtful and innovate in this space, and that's what I think the Community Reinvestment Plan has given us an option to really think about what are some of the ways that we build in equity in terms of our approach. How do we make it easy to do business with commerce? How do we make it easy for, to get out dollars, but also how do we have that accountability? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to reporting and that kind of stuff, 2 months from now, Jim is going to ask me, hey, who got served from those dollars, right? And so I'm going to have to account for it. So I need providers that are reporting on data, right? And so there's other kinds of things that we need to make sure that we have the accountability so we can show that the program, it met its intended impact, that we listened to the community, we got dollars out, we can account for it, and we can be responsible when Jim calls us to the table and says, hey, what do we do with the money?
Yeah, and so when we look at the RFP, it should say in there whether it's going to be time and materials and deliverables, and then we will work one-on-one with the applicants to explain what that means, exactly what that's going to mean for them when we're helping with the grant application.
Yes, sir.
If you're already involved with this grant, does that hinder your chances of applying for?
No.
Timmy?
Hey, Dr. T. Foster. Government is, we were just sitting here talking about the bureaucracy, the red tape around cash flow and funding at the state level. And when the comment was made about the grant being a reimbursement grant, we heard some sounds, a couple people walked out. And so I just want to just kind of lend some encouragement. So Dr. Timmy Foster, I've been working in state agencies for 18 years off and on. There's some upcoming involvement that I may have on some of the work coming up here, so I came today kind of preliminary before that work starts. But as a small business owner myself and a small business owner who has elevated other small business owners, it's really important that the community understands that the design around the reimbursement style or the performance-based style, or as Jim mentioned, the deliverable-based style is a very common style in business, especially in entrepreneurship, especially in all of state government. And so, as you're elevating your work and diversifying your funding protocols now, your funding sources, this is another source, this is another opportunity for you to jump in the game and become more streamlined with what's happening for business entrepreneurs as a whole. And getting into state government, everybody talks about, man, I wish I had a government contract, but not understanding the design of what that means and how it works. And so we need to demystify that. We need to demystify that. One, we know that it's why can't we just change this legislatively? It's lax. It's like, oh gosh, right? That's kind of the magic wand thing that we're all hoping for. But really just in business, demystifying the fact that this is another source. It's not, maybe what you might be used to, or whatever the case may be, but it's another source, it's another opportunity that once you finish your work, you're able to, get your resources in that way. And then also I see that there's other banking opportunities that are coming down the pipeline. So there's some things that the organization or the agency is already doing to help kind of build that. And as Corbett said, partnerships too with banks and relationships with people. And there's a lot of ways to help make this resource profitable if it's something that you're willing to work for and to learn a little bit about. So.
Thank you.
So let me switch to one of the other programs, that sports coaching.
How many coaches we have in here today? Raise your hand.
Oh, cool. Okay. So this is a program that came from. We know that there's lots of coaches that there's. This is tailored to community volunteer coaches. We know that there's a lot of, particularly, men and women in our community that have been coaching for years, sometimes multiple teams. We have some pretty big leagues. They do it as volunteers. And some community coaches have received training on what to do, not just like the goals and the points, but how you deal with like the heart and the spirit and what kids need. So this is a program designed to really kind of build capacity and youth sports volunteer coaches, where coaches can basically get paid for certifications related to social emotional supports or how to do family navigation or those kinds of things. So there's a model that's kind of being developed that's probably similar to what's going to be shared in a second for barbershop. And actually, I know we're kind of at, I'm going to go into the barbershop because it's probably pretty similar to that. There's going to be an RFP that's going to come out for youth sports coaching where not only the coaches get paid training, maybe up to $2,000 or $3,000 to get a certificate, but they also, their team can get up to $25,000 to support what the team needs, including paying the coaching staff, paying the team mom, removing barriers for other kids to participate. We know sometimes kids can't get the shoes, maybe they can't pay the fees. How do we increase and remove those barriers and increase participation in youth sports, particularly when we have so much youth violence going on in Seattle, because there's going to be kids that unfortunately die this year. And what can we do to really try to build up that capacity, build up that opportunity of what they are able to participate in the community, and also build up the hard work and the professional practices around how you deal with, how you deal with some of those conversations that this grant is really addressing. So there's going to be more information that's going to come out about that youth sports coaching grant. And it's very similar. I'm going to just turn it over to Jason Clark for the barbershop, because I think you'll see some pretty significant similarities, or hear some things about how that program works. And the youth sports coaching one might be kind of similar, except that here's the difference between Jason, between the barbershop navigation program and youth sports coaching program. The youth sports coaching program is going to be a competitive grant. The barbershop navigation program is going to be an application. And
When does that grant come out?
the youth sports coaching one, it should be out next week. It should be out next week. And so community youth sports, different schools and major kind of, it's not really dollars for that. That's funded by the K-12 system. We're talking about a community sports system and building the capacity there. So that's the difference of that. There's more details in the plan, so when you go to that website, when you go to that webpage, you can look up the details of the community reinvestment plan for youth sports coaching there.
Just one to throw out there, so when they say it's gonna be a competitive grant, that means that organizations are gonna be competing with other organizations during the evaluation process. Whereas there are some grants that maybe, you apply and they evaluate certain criteria to see if you meet their criteria or not. But in a competitive grant application, it's even more important to let your experience stand out. That's what we'll be working into.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So is it really better to collaborate with another board or another, say I'm a sports coach and I collaborate with Joyce.
So
Does that make it more stronger?
that
experience piece is there, the training piece is there.
I would go with your heart, right? Like if it was me, I wouldn't.
That sounds right to me.
I would, because if you have a legitimate program, that program isn't about your success, how many games you won. It's not about how many new uniforms you were able to buy. It's about, so how do you measure if you really should get it or not? If you're putting your efforts out, that's what Cora was saying, you're out coaching these kids. You're out spending your money, you're out not getting paid. You're coaching year after year.
Right.
It's for you.
Right.
Right? So if you're doing it and she's doing it, right. Now, there are key things in it, and it's making sure you're right, what your experiences are right. And also getting it in on a timely manner, because if funds start running low and you got yours in last, by the time it's reviewed, it might be, empty. So,
Agency who has a coaching, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, so most of the grants you have to be an organization that we can do business with. I'm not clear yet whether or not you have to be a 501c3 organization, but you do have to be a business that we can do business with. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, but we do need to transition just real quick so we give.
yeah, we do, but hold on. They need information. You have to be a legal entity, and you have to be a by-informed organization.
So we say legal entity, we just say.
That means that LLC, corporation, something legal with the Secretary of State. But then on top of that, you have to be a by-informed organization. Right.
You have to have Washington State business license too, I believe. So.
We have one question up here.
Let's say, we applied for the sports coaching grant, and the goal or the mission of your sports coaching kind of also complements with another grant that's coming in, maybe with education. At some point, you'll do the review of the grant. Does that person make the discretion to say, hey, we run out of They like feedback.
No, not in the competitive, because those are two different RFPs that they come out, so I haven't seen that happening. I can't think of.
Let me answer that. That should happen when you're a coach and mentor. So if you have a coach and mentor, and they know your portfolio, and they're putting in a grant for you on that, and they know you missed that one. But even when they put in, because these are moving now, even when they put in for that, put in for, if you feel that other one fits you in education, well, put in for that too. You know what I'm saying? You don't wait on one to die to put in for another one. You don't burn all your sticks at the same time.
Yeah, if we're working with the prepare grant application, and we see that your organization also fits into the category.
So I didn't understand the question, so I think I missed that one.
Oh, so I just want to say, if we're helping you, or I'm pretty sure Ed and Lindsay, if he's helping you, and we see that you fit more than one grant category, we would probably recommend, unless there's a good reason not to, that you should apply for both, if they fit, unless it's gonna over-capacitize you. So to go back to the collaboration too, I would say, we do not recommend you collaborate just to win. I would look at what are your goals and what that means your goals, because sometimes you wind up in a collaboration where two people aren't happy. But if we can complement each other and strengthen each other's application, that may be a strong team that you want to put together.
Right.
Can we, I know, so we have about 20 more minutes. I'll stay after to answer questions related to that particular grant process, and I know Ryan might have some time. Can we do one more question and then transition to, okay.
This is not a question. In order to get a contract, you gotta have a contract with the state. You need a statewide vendor's number.
Yes.
You will not be able to get contract unless you register with the state in the statewide vendor's number. And that's the only way they'll pay you to get a DocuSign is free access. Everybody, as soon as you leave, you go get your statewide vendor's number. Because you can get approved for the contract, but if you don't have a statewide vendor's number, you won't get paid.
Well, it takes 3 to 5 days. 3 to 5 business days.
No,
want to apply for registration?
No, it only takes, and no, it only takes 89 days. But still,
It takes about,
Let's put it on the website, it's 3 to 5 business days.
it takes about 15 minutes to fill it out. You need a buying for registration and the state vendor registration. They both take about 15 minutes to fill out, both of them.
Yeah.
I want to also bring up, I believe with our contracts go, we can help people with that if they are awarded a contract.
There we go.
We've done that in multiple other services that we provide.
well,
Okay, let's-
it does say they're not gonna award you anything without that.
And we'll go to the next one, but to her point, I will get those two things done now.
I'm gonna transition, real quick, because we still need to get to, a major program from Ann, too, so. Let me transition to Jason, and the team about the barbershop.
So, barber and beauty shop behavioral health. First of all, our organization is Northwest Carver Messenger. We provide direct services. We're also a capacity building organization that works throughout the state of Washington. But unique to this opportunity, we're a behavioral health agency. So we, as a BIPOC organization, have become an agency that can bill Medicaid for the services that we provide. One of the unique parts of this process, like Corbett mentioned, is it's going to be an application process. It's not going to be a competitive process. Our goal is to provide Washington State certification for those barbers that are providing service in their communities as certified peer counselors. The benefit of having a peer counseling certification, that means that you can provide Medicaid reimbursable services if you're working with a behavioral health agency, right? Or when they change the legislation in 2025, there'll be options for people to bill for peer-based services directly. So you can, in your barbershop or with your community partners, whoever you're working with, provide these services in your shop and be reimbursed, right? We all know barbershops are those hubs to support the community, right? Where people are going, to talk to folks about some of the things that they're going through. Part of our process with this is leading through a community of practice, right? Like we've been able to navigate the systems in the state to become a BHA, but we've also provided capacity building in multiple regions. So one of the things that we want to do is tap into the brilliance of the folks who are participating in this project through our community of practice. This is going to be a community-informed process that when folks participate and go through, they'll be able to access those grant stipends. We're calling them stipends because it's an application process, to be able to provide services in their shop based off of the application that they submit. Those applications, we'll be partnering with the brother Ryan over there, and you can get support in filling out your application or just really expanding on the idea that you want to provide. I wanted to bring the team up here so we can kind of talk about our approach and how we're looking at this in a way of sustainability. When we start to pair this project with Washington State certifications, even if the funding goes away, the people who participate, they have the opportunity through that certification to have sustainability in their program and advance funding for the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think the most beautiful thing about this process to me is it's something that isn't foreign to us, right? We've been going to our barbers and beauty salons and receiving these services for ever, right? That's where the trust is, that's where the rapport is. So when we're thinking about the process, just adding language to the work that we already do in the building process, I think is super innovative and impactful to our communities. I think that probably the most important piece for me is making behavioral health services and receiving those peer services a part of our environment, right? Where we don't have to walk into the DCYFs and the DSHS and these buildings that have stigma attached to them. We can go to our home barber shops, to our beauty shops, and get the support that we already get, but just bolster it with funding and education and certifications, right? I love that.
Man,
I'm hungry.
So I'll be brief. I think, us as an organization, it's really our goal just to amplify the work that's already happening in the community. And when you think about the reach that we've had in communities, we've been able to effectively partner with folks because we don't come in as experts saying that we have all of the answers. I think we have some tools, right? When you think about CPC training, hearing center engagement, social capital, or even the critical messenger process. I think the biggest takeaway that I would say is what happens after this project. It's to break down those silos. I think competition breeds silos, and we've been breaking down these last doors to become a behavioral health agency with folks that rock with us or another BHA will have opportunities that aren't attached to RFAs.
It's called grassroots, reaching down to the grassroots.
Yes, sir. So we got cards if anybody needs information on that process. And any questions, go ahead. Through participation, yeah. So it'd be a community of practice. So we'll be leading those trainings. So we're a Washington State certified peer counseling training organization. Yeah.
So what is the funding regarding and range for doing the work to the salons and to the barbershop?
I think that's a Corbett question, but it's a $5 million investment area, right?
So, go ahead.
So this is the way that we're looking at it, right? Like in the counties that are funded, we're looking for hub organizations that can support the development of the other organizations or the other shops that will be able to apply. We haven't really put a dollar amount to what it looks like, but if you come to a training, we understand that there's barriers to people accessing training. If you come to a training, you can pay $2,000 for that week. So there's stipends that are built in for every part of the process. Generally with these types of trainings, you're paying money to go to get trained. We're actually paying you to get a certificate that will help you make money. So,
Corbett, what is the dollar amount range for the barbershop?
Do you want to
for a salon or barbershop?
pass through?
You need to put salon on that title also.
It's barber and beauty shop, so the salon.
Beauty shop, whatever, beauty shops need to be put on there also. So
because we have a community of practice process, the community that participates is gonna help to inform those parts of this process.
So most of the money from that pot will go directly to barber shops, barber owners, and for those services. So most of that, most of that money will go.
How much?
The total grant amount is, the total bucket amount is $5 million.
Okay, and how much was your hypothesis, or, how much?
Well, the way that we factor the numbers, over 90% will go to buying for organizations.
There you go.
What do you mean? Wait, hold on.
You want a number like $4 million?
What do you mean 90% should go to, you mean the other is administrative fee?
Yes, there is an administrative fee that's associated.
So, I thought you meant 10% went to non.
No.
Corbin, how much will a barbershop, in the perspective of the development of that? Everybody, the ones here want to know, so, but is it 25,000, is it 50,000?
That's not the thing to decide. It's the thing for that community is going to work through the process, and that group, it's like giving money to participatory budgeting. You work with the community about how the funds.
You say that's not developed yet, is what you're saying. Okay, you didn't say that.
And I want to touch base about the certification, right? The certification is a Washington State Certified Peer Counselor certification that is held by the Department of Health, all right? It's a 40-hour class, Monday through Friday, and it's something that's been leading the way in behavioral health for the last couple of years.
Question, how do you guys involve churches in that, where the church, somebody from the church can come get certified to get here?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
So there will be processes that I think community can engage in about what the next plan looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these programs came from community conversations. The next set of programs, you want things to look differently, or you have some different ideas, there's going to be opportunities for you to bring those ideas in forums like this, in other kind of situations where you can look towards what does it look like for the next 2 years after we get through these rounds. And so there's also opportunities through the local advisory teams that will be coming into play. We'll talk more about that later, where there's other flexibility. If you see something that you think that we did miss stuff, we couldn't fund it. It was only $200 million. It sounds like a lot, but it's only $200 million for the state. So there's things like when we get 120 applications for financial coaching, and we can only fund 28. That should tell you, there's opportunities for us to have more investment, more capacity, and so keep coming with the ideas. We'll keep jotting them down, and so that's no.
And to answer your question, peer support started in behavioral health and systems of care, right? So if you've experienced it, if you've gone through juvenile rehabilitation, Department of Corrections, then we take that lived experience, bring it into policy, bring it into delivering services from that lived experience space. So it started in the behavioral health field, right? And it's just now breaking out of that space into communities, right? So into our churches, into our beauty and barber shops. So expect more of it, but it's fairly new to all of our spaces. I got a hand up here. Yes. Bring it in. Yes. As a barber, I'd imagine I'm billing for services. At the end of my day, I count all the different peer support services that I deliver throughout the day. I bill those appropriately and send that to Medicaid, and then shoot me my bread.
But Medicaid's not paying this. This is coming out of community reinvestment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and from what I see from this, the sausage making is still kind of happening on it. So we're gonna dive in and help them make that sausage. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, we'll help straighten the arrow out, so it's shooting straight.
Well, we got about 15 more minutes. I want to cover the homeownership capital, but let's give them like a round. Thank you guys.
I got one other thing. Can you guys give them your phone number? And your information? If you have enough cards, pass the cards out. If not, say it so they can shoot to the direct source.
Okay.
As things unfold.
Can we got one more.
Hey, excuse me. I just want to say, if you want to get all the questions answered, if you pick that resources at Seattle County, we will answer the questions because all of you are already answered.
And let me share. If you give us 15 minutes, we're going to cover more next time. But if you give us 15 minutes, we're going to talk about the Homeownership Capital Accelerator Program. So for folks that are interested in homeownership and want to access capital for that. So hang on for 15 minutes and then we can answer questions.
This is not a question. I was just going to commend Robert Sacco because I just know how to take a year and all my next girl, they have been doing the work many years before this. And helping us count people in their job.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Earl. Okay, so. All right, you ready to take over? Okay. Okay. And this is after RFP too. Oh. Yeah. Hey, can I get your attention? Can we get 15 more minutes and then we'll stick around to answer questions for folks? Yeah, this is homeownership right here.
Can we get everyone's attention, please? Everybody, can we get everyone's attention, please? We haven't finished yet, so can we please get everyone's attention? Thank you.
All right. Well, let me. There you go. So we've already introduced this, but I'm excited to hear. If I hear something that we want to, I might ask a question. But if we can cover what we do, the RFP that's out right now, and the one that's coming next month, and give a heads up for what people might hear next month. That sound good, Jim? This is all about assets. This is about home ownership. This is about land. This is about property. This is about construction. This is about adding on to your home that you have right now. Let's say that you own a home and you want to build a DAU, detached accessory dwelling unit, a mother-in-law apartment. There's resources for that. There's resources to purchase land. There's a lot of funding that Naacp will have to tell us, and this is probably just scratch the surface for what we might cover next month. But we just want to give the floor and an opportunity so you can help share this information out too. Sound good?
Sounds good. And so I will also share with y'all that I will be in the residential mortgage office on, I was regulator from 95 to 2007, and I got out of this mortgage what really so then I moved over to doing public funding and now I'm back to regular homeownership, which is where my heart lies. So I will do my best to answer any questions that you have or to table them. I've been taking copious notes on what y'all have been asking about, and one of the things that is eminently clear is that I need a big notebook. But at the June 6th seminar, when we're talking about all things homeownership, we will be bringing a easel display thing where we can capture folks' questions and, we probably should bring two, but we can capture people's questions and we can also have one that shows where like existing resources are so that y'all can see things sort of in real time. Right now, we have a couple of open requests for proposals, which is what an RFP is. And that's essentially fancy talk for, in my words, not Congress's words, for a request by a government entity that is looking for organizations who want to be able to provide the service that we have funding for. And in this case, there are funds that are matching funds. So if an organization, and this is mostly for banking types, that have like a credit union or a community development finance institution, a CDFI, in some cases, and it could be banks, it could be like home site, where they have matching funds, where if you provide $1, then that organization will provide $1 with a specific outcome in mind. It could be education, it could be buying a home, it could be investing in your business, it could be a number of things. Well, if they want to be able to expand their resources, they can apply for this funding, and if it meets some of the CRP criteria, then we can provide them with a lump sum so that they can then expand their programs with an additional dollar to include that in the matching fund. So that's one of the items that we have. Another one, yes, ma'am. Well, okay, so the question is who gets this money and how can we make sure that they know about this opportunity? That is always the hardest question to answer. We send out notices through the conference memos that we have. We send out notices to the Department of Financial Institutions, which is a regulatory entity. We send out notices to our partner organizations out in the community, and we basically ask everybody and anybody to continue to share those. What we try not to do is we try not to send those messages out to folks who are not eligible to get the funding, because we don't want to cause confusion and we don't want to cause loss of money. And that is somewhat of a mixed result, to be perfectly frank. Yes.
We've been doing this for so long, people do this for so long, or
well, and so that is a different pot of money. So I'm going to stop talking about these because these aren't nearly as interesting in my opinion as the homeownership money. So the homeownership money that Herbert was talking about is specifically reinvestment plan money as opposed to some of the other homeownership money we have, is capital funding, which means that an object, capital funding means that an object has to be, a tangible object has to be created as a result of the investment. So it's capital funding to create it could be an extension to a home, an existing residential home, it could be an expansion to your business, it could be a remodel, it could be a standalone unit that you use to house a family member, or that you use to front your business, or that you use as a what you use it for. Yeah. It does not have to be on land that you own here. It can be on land that you still owe money to pay for. It's pretty wide open. It just has to create some sort of a capital asset. You can purchase land if there's a capital asset at the end. So in theory, yes. So a capital asset is something, and I suppose there's probably a technical accounting term that escapes me right now, but basically it's something tangible, and land is tangible.
Yes, so you said the money is to be used for like safety that home enlarge, utilize for.
If we just get, first,
Right?
Yes, ma'am. So the question was, if you have a home, or if you have a multifamily structure of some sort, can you use the funding to remodel that for additional purposes? The answer is yes. It would be able, that would be eligible. The caveat, the caution that I would share is that this money certainly would allow that, but this money does not circumvent or otherwise remove the barriers in the form of like permitting and fire code and all that fun stuff that the local governments require for all buildings. So we can pay for it, we can pay for the permitting, we can pay for the architecture, we can pay for the construction, we can pay for the acquisition. What we can't do is tell the building department to go fly kite. No ma'am, it's a grant, not a loan. Yes, ma'am.
And the difference in capital really kind of lends more to the business sector. Because there are traditionally two types. One is capital, the other one is operation. So she's basically saying that it's not, operations doesn't qualify. It's capital. Renovations or purchase of something tangible.
Yeah, I have a question. You talked about generational property values because of restricted housing. In 1952, my parents wanted to move 26 South Greenway. Hardcastle Realty told them they did not move to Greenway because they were neutral, but they couldn't move to the Roanoke and the Jewish people at that time were not considered white. So we weren't able to move where we wanted to move. And that was strictly where we could move. What would that qualify you for now?
Well, the situation that you described, being told, your family being told by the realtor that they weren't allowed to move to Greenlake because they were black, and Greenlake came out of August of 1952, but they could move to Madrona, thank you. That is the prime example of what the covenant homeownership program that the Housing Finance Commission is rolling out, where you or your family members, because you're all related and you're descended from that same parent set, exactly, that your family members now qualify under that program for the loans that are through that covenant homeownership program. And I can make sure that we have those links shared with the organizers of this group. And to be honest, we might be able to get some of the folks from the government homeownership program to come talk at the June 6th if they're not already on that list.
You sure? What that would cost?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the covenant homeownership program is a down payment assistance program. So what that does is it provides low interest or no interest. Well, I have to be careful because it's not my program, so I can't overstep. The Housing Finance Commission is creating a loan unit program that is only for people who meet that criteria that you just described. And it is used in coordination with other debt products, more bigger mortgages, in order to make it so that you and your family members could buy homes and bring them home. So it would qualify you for that particular loan program. I don't know about no interest, but I certainly would assume that it would be no interest. It's the Housing Finance Commission's vehicle, and they are standing it up as we're speaking. So I'm going out on a limb here.
Hopefully that doesn't break.
Well, I have a lot of things.
Are you saying the people that apply for this grant, this money, are who?
For the covenant homeownership program? The covenant homeownership program is specifically for people who were subject to, or their family members were subject to housing discrimination because of color, prior to the Fair Housing Act going into effect in 1968. So if you or your family members, or if you are a descendant, or if you were here in 1968, and your family was would have been discriminated against because of your race in 1968, which is where the Fair Housing Act went into effect, then you would qualify for the permanent homeownership program. That's what I was talking about with the lady earlier. And how do you prove that? I have no idea.
Let's make sure that we get some of these questions over here too. They're kind of in the dark.
Everybody that's really qualified, let's put it like that.
Well,
Black and qualified.
As long as they're here before 68, I wouldn't think the rules.
So there's some folks that had their hands up for a while, but they're kind of in the, alright, so let's go here, and then the white shirt, did you have your hand up too? Okay, just right here with the glasses.
Does this qualify as a multifamily, this says residential is considered more proper place or less?
With the community reinvestment plan funding, you could use that to buy a multifamily project. It would be nearly enough money, but you could use it for it. And you could also use it for homeownership, you could use it for commercial, you could use it for retail. It is not as restrictive as, say, just the straight up homeownership funding would be. The key with any competitive funding cycle, and it doesn't matter if it's for homeownership, it doesn't matter if it's for services, always look at what are considered the eligible activities, and that will answer the questions about what can I spend money on. And if you have questions, always ask whoever's published it.
There's a question right over here, and we'll go here, there, and then blue shirt, and then black shirt.
Yes, sir.
So, what you just said, clarify with it, and, then you also said capital asset, or is that anything else on it?
No, the land is the capital asset.
Okay, back there.
Mark, could I ask, is there a place where I can go to get it?
Yes, I will make sure that there are links to all of this information that are provided to the arrangers for this, so that everybody can see it their own level.
Okay, blue shirt and then black.
Yeah, you mentioned race as a form of discrimination. What about religion?
I can only speak to what was in House Bill 1474, and it has a very long section that I do not have memorized, but it spoke specifically to those who were subject to the racially restrictive covenants that were in place and enforced prior to the Fair Housing Act in 1968. So it may have also included religion, and I am really fuzzy on where the line is on certain aspects of that.
Well, we'll be back here on June 6th to talk about everything wood homes, so we're gonna have to close it.
Can we get some more questions? Well, I want to make sure I get to his question and then her question, and we'll close out. With the hat right here first.
So, my question is, from what I'm hearing, there is a program that if you have a multi-unit and you want to upgrade, there's a grant program for that.
Correct.
And what's the cap on it?
I don't believe we have a cap on it.
So this proposal written and
So that is a great question. The question was, is there a proposal or what? And the answer to that question is we don't have the request for proposal released yet, but I was passing notes in class, and one of the things I haven't told Gertie yet is that we are going to be putting a how you set up your business to do business with the state of Washington seminar, and I'm already in the process of recruiting people to do this work. I actually approved the job descriptions earlier this week. But part of that cohort is going to be, I think we're gonna need to start doing some recordings that walk people through the pieces of the request for proposals and what are you look for. We actually already have that material internally at our agency for internal staff education that was put on by one of our agency attorneys. And I think we need to do that with some outward facing stuff, because one of the major goals that our agency has overall is to expand access to our programs. And what I keep hearing tonight is that government language and government formatting is not accessible at all. And I say that as someone who has a 47-page federal grant proposal printed out, highlighted with sticky notes all over it on my desk in my office, so I do absolutely sympathize. I think that we can do better, and I'm taking crazy notes in here so that we can incorporate that to do better. And part of that is demystifying that process, is to remove that gatekeeping. And the RFP process was initially embraced basically to try to make things as fair as possible. Fair only works if we're all coming from the same place and from the same playing field, and we're not. And if we want to expand so that the people who are getting the funding are the people who are closest to where that funding will be effective and actually do the change that people want, we need to make sure that we haven't made things so weird and so hard to access that they just throw their hands up and leave. For example, the whole reimbursement or the deliverable question. I've been doing capital funding since 2007, and capital funding used to not be reimbursement based. We used to be able to pay 15% when the contract was executed, 20% when the notice to proceed was issued, 40% when we hit the halfway mark. We used to be able to give it out in tranches, I think is the proper term. We can't do that anymore. But what we can do is we can reimburse once there is evidence that an expense has been incurred. And someone earlier had mentioned that building relationships with your suppliers is key. It's absolutely key. Another part that is key is that we have a responsibility of commerce to make sure that our staff who are working with people have workloads that are manageable so they're not overwhelmed, and that they have a clear understanding of what proper documentation looks like that they can relay to others, and that we are paying those invoices as quickly as possible. We, in the homeownership unit, have been incrementally broadening our eligibility for our programs. It used to be that you only could be eligible if you had prior experience. Well, how are you going to get prior experience if you don't get any funding? So we have started with, our unit's new. Our unit was only created 2 years ago. And I told my boss that I'm going to only start up this role if I had the autonomy to run it the way I wanted to run it. And part of it was creating technical assistance people who could help grow community members to bring homeownership far-wide. We have rural homeownership issues, we have urban homeownership issues. And she said yes, and so that's what we're doing. And so we are hiring people so we keep our workloads low enough so that we can provide technical assistance. We're giving funding out to folks who haven't had our funding before. I am not going to sit here and say it has been sunshine and roses. There is an organization in this city that I thank the good Lord above every single day that they have the patience to stick with us. We gave them several $1 million to do down payment assistance. They are doing a marvelous job, but some of my staff members are getting crash courses into what does family really look like? And what do, you know, because the eligibility for household sizes is based on, or household income is based on household size. And household size is based on how many family members you have. And it's been interesting. And, you know, bless our client who is being patient with us. And it's not easy because it's home buying, and home buying is incredibly stressful. And it's stressful for the home buyers, it's stressful for our clients who are the realtors, and everything is a learning opportunity, and we're trying to streamline things. Yes? Oh, certainly.
I see people are leaving, and the question was asked about how to find some of these resources. So if you go online to Washington State Department of Commerce, you can actually find all the links to not just the corporate, in addition to what Ann is talking about as well, the housing piece. And so commerce.wa.gov. So commerce.wa, when you're in .gov, commerce.wa.gov. And if you don't have a way to write that down, just Google it, go on Google and put in Washington State Department of Commerce. If you just put in Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of Commerce comes up, and that's federal, that's in Washington, D.C. So you want to go to Washington State Department of Commerce. The very first page of that, Washington State Department of Commerce, which is commerce.wa.gov, has quick links right away at the bottom. First quick link, housing rent assistant. The next one, community reinvestment project, and there's several of them. So all of the active grants, or RFPs, or the opportunity, the new the opportunity for funding opportunities and things like that, you can find them on the website, and you can see which ones are active and kind of go through them. It blew my mind. I'm on the planning committee for one of the capital projects for the Department of Commerce. And so I went online and just kind of checked out all that was there. There's so many active grants right now that you might be able to fit. So just wanted to share that as I see a couple of folks leaving out. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Program.
Yes, ma'am.
Home ownership. And when you talk about discrimination, does that also include redlining?
Yes, ma'am.
Myself and many of us who were in this community, but it was strange to me, and this was not in the 50s, but this was in the 80s and the 90s, when I went to try to buy a home. I never got a loan approved here, even though I was living here, but I got a loan outside.
So that's really disgusting, number one. What you're describing is outside of the scope of the Covenant Homeownership Program at this point in time. It's very prescriptive law. And I'm not going to sit up here and say that redlining doesn't occur. Redlining now happens financially. Redlining now happens, and I was just writing myself a little note. The internet connectivity issues, I got recruited to do stand up the broadband office's financial programs right before I took this homeownership position. So I did that for a year. And financial redlining is now manifesting itself by large corporations saying, we're not going to provide higher level services like broadband, and we're not going to provide banking branches in these areas because the census data says that they have these incomes in this area and they don't have these businesses, so why should we put a branch in there? We won't have enough to cover our expenses. That's economic redlining, and that's not okay. But unfortunately, it's illegal. And so the redlining that you're talking about that is supposed to be illegal now simply has a new form today. And the redlining that you're talking about then is also manifest in unfair appraisals that are happening for everyone. And there's no way for me to be able to say, here's an opportunity to help respond to that, to respond to what you experienced in the 80s. There just isn't. There's not
our opportunity is to fight for equity and equality like we're doing, what we did to get this money. Redlining because we're black still happens every day, all the time, as much as it did before.
Because when I look at something as community reinvestment, this community, that should be a package. Because we were displayed, I kept every deposit. I kept it since 1997, all the deposits. And to show that I was giving more money, because I had to go out to the more for better. But here, I was not, and I kept every last one.
Yeah, well, you know, we gotta cut this short, but on the 6th, we're gonna dive into 2 hours or whatever on this whole topic and resources on how, what and what we can do. But you got Africatown, they've been fighting redlining and us being displaced and all of that since their inception and still right now, today, as much as ever. So one thing you can do is join arms with advocacy. You know, sign up for Africatown, sign up for the Naacp. You know, come help with this mission of advocacy for community reinvestment. You know, come help. If we took that approach, we wouldn't be here today. If we took an approach on not to fight for equity and equality, we wouldn't be having, there would be no community reinvestment. But we did, not knowing what it would look like this, not even understanding that. We were just pissed off and didn't care. And we acted accordingly. And we weren't stopping and still not. We don't die, we multiply. You know, so I know we're over, but the bottom line is, let's join arms together and fight. That's what it's about, right? Fight stays on. And as we close, I wanted to get Joaquin and Daryl to come up and say some final words.
Can we do a round of applause? Thank you for coming.
And please come back. You know, Joaquin and Daryl, Daryl, you here?
I think it's most of been said. Let's give a hand for Jim Buchanan again. The one thing that I want to emphasize that we don't just fight, we build, right? And it's about rebuilding our community. There should never be a time when it was as if we were never here. So, you know, all of the Pan-Asian, Chinese, and Vietnamese communities don't all live in Chinatown, Little Saigon International District. That's still their cultural and economic hub as a part of the city. And we should have what our great-grandparents and great-grandparents established in this community. There should always be a memorial. And I don't mean murals and plaques. I mean active, live businesses and institutions and people living here as a tribute and honor to those communities. So that's what we're here for. You know, the $200 million is a good start. It's proof what we can do, but we are going to push for billions to come back into our community. I don't know if you know, but there was a study done that said $5 billion have been taken out of the Black community in King County, right, by these practices and these policies. So we want to get that back into the community, back into our families. Last thing I'll just say, we got Summer of Soul coming up, right? Yes. So we have Black Wall Street it kicks off with, then we have Juneteenth at Jimi Hendrix Park, then we have Union on Union, big community family dinner, all together, come back to the Central District, and then we have Emoji Fest, which is our Black Community Festival legacy being continued. So, you know, bring the children back, bring the families so they can have those experiences. One of the greatest things I've seen is, you know, the young people getting dressed and feeling good about going to the Emoji Fest in Blackville like I used to do when I was young. So they're able to still have some of those experiences. And so bring your children, your grandchildren, family, and just meet up at these events and support our businesses. And let that be a vision of what we can see in the future as we continue to get this money to reinvest and rebuild our community. So thank you all, and let's keep working.
Real quickly, I'm on the 43rd Legislative District Conference right now we're fighting to get reparations as one of the resolutions. We're getting ready to vote, but I hope to be able to tell you before the night's over that the 43rd Legislative District will have reparations as one of our platform items coming out of the state. You got two.
Tell us to join wherever we are, get involved with our district so that we can put those same issues on the table.
Exactly. Well, and so I'm not even going to be critical. It took me to be 64 years old to decide I was going to get involved. But just because I'm one person in the 43rd District screaming reparations, I'm one of 25 delegates. There's two platforms, and we might have reparations on the state party platform for getting involved. Dial in, get involved. Joaquin's been saying it for years. You know, I finally get here, you know, and so it's happening. But you know, I need to. At this point, all you can do is come to the convention and walk around with your NAACP t-shirt to make sure it becomes a part of the platform. Right now, we're doing the legislative district stuff, and I'm learning as we go. But again, so tonight you had two forms. One was, if you took the QR code and signed in, you could get additional information for unanswered questions for the night. And then two, you got one from the NAACP, because we do have an economic development department that has been pouring over some of the things that we talked about tonight that you could call and we will give you a consult. So thank you very much.
I just want to let you all know that I want to stay after if anyone's available for any other questions about technical assistance, about the business cards. I received a number of texts already, and we'll be following up with people, you know, tomorrow and all throughout next week. And if somebody has a question, it won't be just me that people are working with. We have 4 both managers, and the other people in our firm are supporting them too. So we look forward to working with everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to come up here and ask. I'll be here.
Absolutely. So we're going to have the last thing to say from corporate. Department of Commerce.
Man, let's get it. This is a good time. I every time June, I'm coming every time. This is a good environment. This feels like home. Uncle Jim. But we're gonna get this money out. I'm gonna stay available. We have commerce staff that will bring it to the table. Whatever Jim has going on, we'll make sure that we come out and support, make sure that we're giving you the information through the NAACP, through other events that we have throughout the state. Just appreciate your time. Just check in with the website. Make sure that you're registering as buying for organizations. Make sure you're staying in communication with local, and let's figure out how we lock arms and really do what Jim is describing, how we actually get this money where it's needed to go, and how we support this community reinvestment plan. So thanks, Jim, for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.